10 things you should quietly eliminate from your life. Have you ever wondered if the weight you carry every day isn't from what you lack, but from everything you haven't let go of yet? What if true growth isn't about chasing more but subtracting the noise, the fear, the invisible chains you've grown used to? And what if the life you seek, the one filled with peace, clarity, and meaning, is already within reach, but hidden behind things you were never meant to hold? In a world that keeps demanding more achievements, more attention, more connections, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We're constantly pushed to add, to prove, to keep up. But what if the answer isn't in accumulation, but in elimination? What if improving your life doesn't come from piling on new habits or chasing success, but by quietly letting go of the unnecessary? Letting go is not about loss. It's about release. It's about choosing to unburden your mind, your heart, your soul from the invisible weight that's been keeping you from standing fully in your strength. Because the truth is, clarity doesn't come from noise. Peace doesn't bloom in chaos. Growth doesn't thrive under the heavy load of things that no longer serve you. This episode is not about dramatic changes or public declarations. It's about the quiet, powerful decisions you make alone. Decisions that don't need applause because their reward is internal. A deeper calm, a stronger sense of self, a life aligned with your highest values. Here, we will walk through 10 things you should quietly eliminate from your life if you want to experience not just stillness but transformation. Inspired by Stoic principles, each of these isn't just a suggestion, it's a shift away from fear, dependency, distraction, and towards something far more powerful: inner freedom. From the fear of what others think, to the need to control every outcome, from toxic relationships to mental clutter. Each element we remove is a step back to the center of who we truly are. These changes aren't loud. They're not meant to impress the world. They're meant to liberate you. By the end of this journey, you'll carry less, but you'll feel more. Less noise, more presence. Less pressure, more purpose. Because sometimes, the most profound transformations don't happen with fireworks. They happen in silence. In that moment, you finally say, "I no longer need this to be me." So let's begin. Not by adding, but by subtracting. Not with noise, but with intention. This is not just a guide, it's an invitation to return to yourself. Overcoming the fear of others' opinions. How many moments have you lost because you hesitated? Because you paused, not to reflect, but to wonder, what will they think of me? It's a quiet fear, yet a controlling one. The fear of other people's opinions doesn't shout, but it whispers into your every decision. And over time, those whispers start to shape your life until one day you look up and realize you haven't been living for yourself. You've been living for an audience that doesn't even exist. Maybe you didn't take that risk. You didn't speak up in the room. You shrunk, softened, compromised. Not because you weren't ready, but because you were scared to be seen. Scared to be judged. Scared to be misunderstood. But here's a truth that Stoicism reminds us of. The world is not watching you as closely as you think. People are far too busy dealing with their own insecurities, their own doubts, their own tangled mess of thoughts. And even when someone does judge you, what real power does their opinion have over your life? None. Their thoughts do not pay your bills. Their disapproval does not shape your character. Their silence does not diminish your truth. Epictetus, one of the most revered Stoic philosophers, said it best: "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." And in that one line lies the courage we all need to embody. Because improvement often begins at the edge of discomfort, and discomfort often includes being misunderstood. When you start to care less about how you appear and more about who you truly are, your life opens up. Your decisions become sharper, your voice steadier. The fear no longer holds the steering wheel. It becomes background noise, and eventually it fades. But how do we begin to release this fear? Start with awareness. Catch it when it arises. The next time you feel that familiar hesitation, pause and ask, "Am I about to act based on my values or my fear?" That simple question is a flashlight in a dark room. It reveals what's truly driving you. Then challenge the fear. What's the worst that could happen? Most of the time, the answer is far less dramatic than your mind imagines. Maybe someone laughs. Maybe someone disagrees. But you're still breathing. You're still growing. You're still becoming. Try this. Do one small thing each day that your fear has kept you from doing. Speak your idea in a meeting. Wear that outfit you love. Post that thought online. Every small act of defiance builds your immunity to the opinions of others. Every act of self-expression is a brick in the foundation of your confidence. And don't underestimate the power of environment. Surround yourself with people who honor your growth, not those who belittle it. Toxic circles will keep you in fear. Supportive ones will help you rise. But even in the best environments, your goal is not to be liked by all. It's to be grounded enough that you don't collapse when someone doesn't like you. This is what Stoicism teaches. Strength from within. Power over your mind, not over others. And in that mindset, you will discover a kind of freedom most people never taste. You'll no longer need permission to be who you are. You'll no longer crave applause to move forward. You'll trust your own inner compass. And perhaps most importantly, you'll begin to ask the only question that truly matters. At the end of my life, will I be proud of how I lived? Not how much praise I earned, not how many critics I silenced, but whether I followed my own truth even when it was uncomfortable. Because the truth is, most of the judgments you fear today will disappear by tomorrow. But the choices you made, or didn't make, because of that fear, those will stay with you. And that's why letting go of it isn't just brave, it's essential. So breathe deep. Step forward. Let them misunderstand you. Let them watch. Let them talk. But don't let them stop you. Cutting out toxic relationships. There's a saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But what if some of those people are quietly destroying your spirit? What if their words cut deeper than you admit? What if their presence, though familiar, slowly drains your energy, confidence, and peace? Toxic relationships don't always come with chaos. Sometimes they come with silence, with guilt, with subtle manipulation masked as love. You walk away from them feeling smaller, doubting yourself, asking questions that never had to be asked before they entered your life, and yet you You stay out of loyalty, out of fear of confrontation, or perhaps out of habit. The human heart has a way of getting used to its own cage, especially when the bars look like family, friendship, or romance. But here's the truth. Not everyone deserves a seat at your table, especially if they come to poison the food. Stoicism teaches us that peace of mind is not a luxury, it's a discipline. And one of the most powerful disciplines you can develop is the discipline of distance. Cutting out toxic relationships doesn't have to be dramatic. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your peace. You don't have to slam doors or raise your voice. The most powerful exits are often the quietest ones. Start by observing. Ask yourself, how do I feel after being around this person? Energized or emptied? Confident or constantly on edge? Seen or dismissed? Your emotional residue after an interaction tells the truth that your mind often tries to deny. If someone consistently makes you feel less, listen to that feeling. It's not bitterness, it's not weakness, it's awareness. Now, does this mean we should walk away from everyone the moment things get hard? Of course not. Growth requires patience. Relationships require effort. But there's a difference between difficult and destructive. And the Stoic path is not about isolation, it's about discernment. Epictetus once said, "Keep company only with those who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." That's not just poetic, it's a principle, a filter, a compass, one that keeps you from losing yourself while trying to hold on to someone else. Sometimes toxic relationships can be salvaged through honest conversation, but many times they can't. When you've tried, when you've spoken your truth and nothing changes, you have every right to step back. Not because you hate them, but because you love yourself enough to stop bleeding for those who won't stop cutting. Boundaries are not walls. They're doors with locks. You decide who comes in and how far they get to go. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from someone who refuses to grow. Here's a simple but powerful exercise. Make a list, 2 columns. One for people who nourish you, one for those who deplete you. Don't judge, just observe. Then ask yourself, which side have I been feeding more? And why? You don't need a perfect plan to start protecting your peace. Begin small. Limit your time. Change the subject. Choose silence over unnecessary explanation. The world doesn't need to know why you're choosing yourself. It only needs to see what happens when you do. And what happens is this. Your energy returns. Your clarity sharpens. Your joy comes back, not because you found someone new, but because you finally made room for yourself. You are not selfish for letting go. You are responsible. You are mature. You are brave. And as you release what was draining you, you open space for something far greater. Relationships built on respect, truth, and mutual growth. That's what it means to live with intention. That's what it means to love yourself deeply, not with words, but with action. So today ask yourself, who am I still holding on to out of guilt instead of growth? And what would happen if I let go? Quietly, but completely. Breaking free. From destructive habits, sometimes destruction doesn't come with a bang. It comes quietly, disguised as comfort. A few extra scrolls on your phone when you're tired. procrastinating just 5 more minutes, reaching for food, noise, or distraction when you feel a discomfort you don't want to name. Destructive. Habits rarely scream. They whisper. They embed themselves into your routines, hiding in the safe corners of your day, feeding off of your energy, stealing your clarity, and slowly, very slowly, convincing you that you're in control, while quietly tightening their grip. And then one day you wake up not knowing how you got here. Less motivated, less disciplined, more distant from the life you want. But here's the truth. Stoicism brings us back to, no one can enslave you without your consent, not even your habits. You are not weak. You are simply untrained in awareness, and awareness is the beginning of liberation. The Stoics taught that freedom isn't the absence of limits, but the mastery of self. Seneca once wrote, "Most powerful is he who has himself in his own power." And that power starts with paying attention to what you repeat when no one's watching. So how do we break free? Start with honesty. No excuses. Just sit down and ask yourself, what are the habits that leave me feeling worse, not better? What actions give me comfort in the moment, but regret in the long run? You already know the answers. What you need is the courage to face them. Then comes the shift. Don't just try to stop a habit. Replace it. The mind abhors a vacuum. If you remove something that gave you emotional relief, even temporarily, you need to put something better in its place. Trade mindless scrolling for mindful reading. Trade self-soothing through snacks with a walk. Trade avoidance with action, even if it's small. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. You need one small win, then another, and another. This is the Stoic path. Not glamorous, but consistent. Not emotional, but effective. Each time you resist an old pattern, you strengthen a new one. You rewire your response. You reteach yourself who's in charge. And with each small shift, you gain something no habit can ever give you: your self-respect. But be warned, this isn't a straight path. You will stumble. You will fall back. You'll have moments when the old habits feel safer than the unknown. That's okay. Don't shame yourself. Learn from it. Ask, what triggered this? What emotion was I avoiding? This is not failure. It's feedback. It's data. Use it. And just like clearing clutter from your home, breaking a destructive habit clears space in your life. Space you didn't even know you were missing. That space becomes peace, presence, purpose. Here's a practical step. Choose one habit. Just one. The one that's been silently eating away at your energy or confidence. Write it down. Then next to it, write what you'll replace it with. Track it. Observe yourself, not to punish but to understand. Because the point isn't to be perfect. It's to be in motion. Ask yourself daily, am I controlling my habits, or are they controlling me? And know this, every moment you resist, you reclaim something. Your mind, your energy, your dignity. You're not weak for having bad habits. You're human. But you become powerful the moment you realize you have a choice. And every choice you make becomes a brick in the foundation of your new identity. The identity of someone who doesn't just survive, but lives with intention. So, what will you choose today? letting go of the need to control everything. Control gives us the illusion of safety. It tells us that if we plan just right, predict every outcome, micromanage every detail, maybe, just maybe, life won't surprise us. Maybe we can avoid pain. Maybe we can stay safe. But control, like a clenched fist, doesn't bring peace. It brings tension, exhaustion, and eventually, surrender. Not the peaceful kind, but the painful collapse that happens when reality refuses to bend to your will. The Stoics knew this. Long before smartphones, flight delays, and unread messages, they understood a universal truth. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. That sentence, simple as it is, holds the key to your inner peace. So ask yourself, how often do you suffer, not because of what's happening, but because of your resistance to it? We try to control people, their opinions, their emotions, their reactions. We try to control outcomes, the results of our work, the timing of our success, the behavior of our children, the path of our relationships. But life doesn't care about your script. It unfolds on its own terms, and your attempt to grip tighter only creates more friction. Imagine this. You're stuck in traffic, running late. You curse. You grip the steering wheel. You blame the cars, the lights, the world. But does your anger make the traffic move faster? Or does it just ruin your peace? That's the power of perception. That's the realm where Stoicism lives. You don't control the traffic, but you do control your breath, your thoughts, your reaction. And in that moment of redirection, of choosing peace over panic, you reclaim your power. Letting go of control is not apathy. It's not laziness, it's not giving up, it's wisdom. The wisdom to know the difference between what is yours to carry and what never was. The Stoics weren't passive. They didn't float through life. They acted with purpose, but they released attachment to outcomes. They did what they could and accepted the rest. That's not weakness. That's strength refined by clarity. Here's how you begin. Every time stress creeps in, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is yes, take action. If the answer is no, breathe, release, and move your attention inward. Focus on what you can shape, your choices, your mindset, your next step. Another way to practice this is through outcome detachment. Do your best, work hard, show up fully, and then let go. Don't grip the results. Don't obsess over the applause, the metrics, the validation. Let your effort be the reward, because control, when misused, becomes a prison. But acceptance, that's liberation. You can still have goals. You can still dream big. But root those dreams in presence, not pressure. In awareness, not anxiety. When you start living that way, something shifts. The world gets quieter. Your shoulders relax, your mind clears. Try this. Choose one situation in your life that's causing you stress right now. Ask, what part of this can I influence? And what part am I wasting energy on? Then take one small step to release the part you can't control. Maybe it's someone else's opinion, maybe it's a delay, maybe it's a decision you've been waiting on. Release it, not with resentment, but with grace. Let go, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know that peace is more valuable than control. And over time, with practice, you'll notice you argue less, you flow more, you sleep deeper, you start to trust not the world but yourself, because you're no longer living in reaction to chaos. You're responding with clarity. That's the power of Stoicism, not to control the storm, but to remain calm in its center. So today, ask yourself, what am I exhausting myself trying to control that was never mine to manage in the first place? And what would it feel like to finally let it go? Releasing unrealistic expectations. Unrealistic expectations are like invisible weights. You don't always see them, but you feel them. In your disappointment, in your frustration, in that sinking feeling when life doesn't unfold the way you had imagined it would. We place silent demands on ourselves. I should have figured it out by now. I should be happier. They should understand me. Success should come faster. Love should be easier. And when reality doesn't comply, we suffer, not because of what is, but because of what we expected. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Most of our pain doesn't come from life itself, but from the rigid scripts we've written about how life should go. Here's the truth. Expectations are not the enemy. It's the attachment to them, the refusal to adapt, the demand that reality obeys your internal blueprint, that becomes the source of suffering. You expected the path to be straight and it bent. You expected someone to support you, and they left. You expected immediate results, and instead you got silence. And in that moment of misalignment, you began to doubt not just the outcome, but yourself. But what if you saw setbacks not as failures, but as corrections? What if life wasn't rejecting your effort, but redirecting your energy towards something better aligned? Letting go of unrealistic expectations doesn't mean giving up. It means grounding yourself in what is, so you can respond with strength instead of resistance. Take perfectionism, for example. The expectation to always perform, always be right, always get it perfect the first time. But perfection isn't real. It's a mirage, and chasing it will exhaust your spirit. Progress is real. Growth is real. Effort is real. Perfection is just noise. Or take your relationships. You expect people to always understand you, to love you the way you imagined, to never let you down. But people aren't mind readers, they're flawed just like you. And when you expect perfection from them, you create a constant loop of disappointment. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's wisdom. It doesn't mean tolerating mistreatment. It means releasing the need for life and people to match an ideal version that only exists in your mind. Here's how to begin releasing those expectations. First, notice them. That moment when you feel frustrated, pause and ask, what was I expecting here? And was it ever realistic? Then reframe it. What's within my control right now? My effort, my attitude, my response? Because when you shift from demanding outcomes to mastering your response, you reclaim your power. Try this practice. Each morning, write down one thing you want from the day. Then next to it, write a reminder. I will give my best and let go of the rest. It's a small shift, but it resets your mind to focus on process, not perfection. Over time, this mindset becomes a shield. Life still throws curveballs. People still change. Circumstances still surprise you. But you no longer break under the weight of misaligned expectations. You bend. You adapt. You stay anchored in clarity, not in fantasy. The Stoic way is not about suppressing desire. It's about untangling it from control. It's about trading entitlement for gratitude. Instead of, "It should have been this way," you learn to say, "This is how it is, and I will meet it with strength." So ask yourself today, am I holding on to an expectation that's causing more harm than good? And if I let it go, what could I make space for instead? Because life rarely gives us what we imagine, but it often gives us what we need if we're willing to see clearly, act wisely, and accept courageously. Letting go of the need to always be right, it's subtle. It sneaks in through the back door of ego. You're in a conversation, a disagreement, a simple exchange of thoughts, and suddenly you feel it rise, the need to correct, to prove, to defend, to win. The need to be right feels righteous. It feels like you're standing for truth. But too often it's not about truth at all. It's about pride, about identity, about the fear of being wrong and what that might mean for how you see yourself. But here's the thing. Being right isn't peace, and needing to be right every time, in every moment, is exhausting. The Stoics weren't interested in winning arguments. They were interested in understanding the self. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." When your mind is busy defending, it isn't learning. When your heart is focused on victory, it isn't open to connection. Letting go of the need to be right is not weakness, it's strength refined. It's the quiet confidence that comes from no longer needing to convince the world of your worth. How many relationships have suffered, not because one person was wrong, but because both refused to bend? How many opportunities for deeper connection have we missed because our ego wouldn't let us sit in humility? Being right may win you the debate, but it often loses you the moment. And in the grand scheme of life, what matters more, proving your point or preserving your peace? Here's a question that can change everything. Do I want to be right, or do I want to understand? Understanding builds bridges. Being right builds walls. Understanding creates dialogue. Being right creates defense. Understanding makes space for growth. Being right often stops growth in its tracks. The Stoic doesn't seek to dominate. He seeks to discern. She listens, not to reply, but to reflect. They choose silence not out of passivity, but out of power. So how do you start to release this need? First, catch it. That rising heat in your chest when someone disagrees. That impulse to interrupt. That tightness in your jaw when someone says something you know is wrong. Don't judge it. Just notice it. Awareness is the gatekeeper of change. Then breathe. Pause. Ask, is this battle worth my peace? Will this matter tomorrow? Can I let them be wrong and still be at peace with myself? Because often the deeper truth is this: you don't need to correct everyone. You don't need to fix every misunderstanding. You don't need to police the thoughts of others. What you need is to master your own stillness. Try this. The next time you're in a disagreement, challenge yourself not to interrupt. Listen fully. Then, instead of defending, reflect their words back to them. Ask clarifying questions. Show them you're here to connect, not conquer. You'll be surprised how quickly the tension softens when you stop fueling it. And if you find yourself being corrected, practice humility. Say, you might be right. Or better yet, I hadn't thought of it that way. These aren't admissions of defeat. They're signs of maturity. Because real power doesn't fear being wrong. Real power knows that every correction is a chance to grow. So today, ask yourself, am I sacrificing my peace, my presence, my relationships just to be right? And what might happen if I chose understanding instead? When you let go of the need to always be right, you gain something far more valuable: trust, calm, and the space to actually connect, not just argue. And in that space, wisdom grows. You don't need to win every battle. You need to win back your stillness. Silencing the digital noise in an age where your phone buzzes more than your heart beats, silence has become a rare luxury. Every ping, every scroll, every red notification badge tugs at your attention, begging you to react. Now, fast, endlessly. We live in a world that never shuts up. The digital world promised us connection, and yes, it delivered. But it also brought with it a storm of noise. Noise that fills our eyes before we've opened them in the morning. Noise that lingers in our ears long after we try to rest. Noise that crowds our minds until our own thoughts become muffled echoes in the background. The danger of this noise isn't always obvious. It doesn't come with sirens. It comes subtly, in the form of a distracted mind, a shallow breath, a restless heart. We think we're just checking in, just catching up, but really we're running from stillness, from presence, from the quiet truth that waits in silence. Stoicism teaches us you have power over your mind, not over the world. In modern terms, you can't stop the noise from existing, but you can decide how much of it gets in. So ask yourself, when was the last time you sat in silence, not because your battery died, but because your soul needed rest? When did you last choose stillness, not because you were bored, but because you craved clarity? Silencing the digital noise isn't about rejecting technology. It's about reclaiming sovereignty over your mind. It's about choosing intentional use over addiction, depth over distraction. Here's the truth: your phone is a tool, but too often it becomes the master. And when that happens, your time, your energy, your attention, the currency of your life, is no longer your own. So how do we take it back? Start small. No declarations, just decisions. Begin with mornings. Let the first thing you hear be your own breath, not a news alert. Let the first thing you see be daylight, not a glowing screen. Protect the beginning of your day as sacred ground. Then move to evenings. Wind down with intention. Put the phone away an hour before sleep. Let your mind soften without stimulation. Let your thoughts untangle naturally. Audit your digital environment. Ask yourself, does this content nourish me or numb me? Does this notification need my attention? Or am I just responding out of habit? Unfollow what drains you. Mute what doesn't serve you. Curate your inputs like your peace depends on it, because it does. Try this. Designate quiet windows in your day. 15, 30, or 60 minutes with no screen, no noise, just you and the moment. Use that time to walk, reflect, breathe, journal. Not to do, but simply to be. You'll be amazed at how clarity rises when noise falls. You'll start to hear your own thoughts again. And not just the loud ones, but the gentle ones, the wise ones, the ones that only speak when everything else quiets down. This isn't a retreat, it's a return to presence, to purpose, to you. The Stoics taught that external chaos is not the problem. It's how we let it enter the temple of our mind. You are the gatekeeper. You choose what gets in, and you choose what to shut out. So today ask yourself, am I using technology, or is it using me? Have I become so plugged in that I've disconnected from myself? And what would happen if I chose silence, not as absence, but as alignment? Because in that silence, your thoughts deepen, your breath slows, your spirit listens, and you remember what the digital world always tries to make you forget. You are enough, even when no one's watching. You are complete, even without constant input. And the best connection you'll ever build is the one between you and your own stillness. Transforming negative thoughts into positive ones. There's a voice in your mind. Sometimes it's kind, sometimes it's curious, but all too often, it's critical. It whispers things you'd never say to a friend, but somehow feel acceptable to say to yourself. You're not enough. You messed it up again. Why can't you be more like them? These thoughts don't come from truth, they come from fear, from comparison, from old wounds we never healed. But here's what Stoicism teaches us. You are not your thoughts. You are the observer, the gatekeeper, the one who decides what stays and what must go. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, what you repeatedly think, you eventually become. So what color are you painting your inner world with? Are your thoughts strengthening you or shrinking you? Negative thinking doesn't announce itself with sirens. It seeps in quietly. It shows up in the hesitation before a bold move, in the doubt before an honest word, in the way you downplay your gifts to avoid attention. And the more you allow these thoughts to run unchecked, the more they define your reality. Not because they're true, but because they go unchallenged. The transformation begins with awareness, not judgment, just presence. Start here. When a negative thought arises, pause. Name it. Don't push it away or shame it. Just acknowledge it. Say to yourself, I see you. That simple act breaks the pattern. It reminds you that you are not the thought, you are the thinker. Then ask, is this thought helpful or harmful? Is it rooted in truth or just fear in disguise? Would I say this to someone I love? And if the answer is no, replace it. Not with empty affirmation, but with grounded truth. Instead of I always fail, say I've fallen before but I've gotten back up every time. Instead of I'm not good enough, say I'm growing, and that matters more than perfection. This is not toxic positivity, it's conscious recalibration. It's taking ownership of the conversation inside your own mind. Another tool, gratitude. Gratitude is not denial, it's perspective. It reminds you that even in the midst of struggle, there is light. Even in the presence of pain, there is still something worth honoring. Each day, take 60 seconds to name 3 things you're grateful for, no matter how small. A breath, a moment of peace, a lesson learned. Over time, gratitude becomes armor. It reshapes your lens. It trains your mind to look for light even on the darkest days, and don't forget the power of environment. The people you listen to, the content you consume, the voices you give space to, all of it influences your mental landscape. Choose wisely. Surround yourself with those who speak life, not just noise. Fill your ears with wisdom. Let your screen reflect inspiration. Make your inner world a garden, not a battlefield. Here's a practical habit. Each time you notice a repeating negative thought, write it down. Then write a stronger thought next to it. Read them both aloud. Feel the difference. You'll begin to notice which thoughts shrink you and which ones give you room to breathe. Over time, the balance shifts. Your mind stops defaulting to the worst-case scenario. You begin to trust yourself more. Speak to yourself with compassion. And most importantly, you start to believe in your own ability to navigate the storm. Because you can't always control what thought appears first. But you can always choose what thought comes next. So today, ask yourself, am I letting my thoughts build me up or break me down? And if they're breaking me, what truth can I reach for instead? Your mind is your sanctuary or your prison. You get to choose. Choose wisely. Choose gently. Choose powerfully. Clearing physical and mental clutter. Have you ever walked into a room so messy it instantly made your chest feel tight? Or sat in silence for a moment, only to realize your mind is louder than the world around you? Clutter, whether it's physical or mental, isn't just inconvenient. It's oppressive. It steals energy without asking. It clouds judgment. It drowns intuition. And most dangerously, it normalizes chaos. The Stoics taught simplicity, not minimalism as a trend, but as a necessity for clarity. Because when you carry less, you see more. When your space is calm, your mind begins to follow. Let's begin with the physical. Look around your environment. Every object holds energy. Some of it anchors you. Some of it burdens you. That drawer stuffed with things you no longer use. The corner you keep avoiding. The closet that whispers someday but never gets opened. These aren't just physical distractions. They are decisions you haven't made. And every decision delayed is mental clutter stored. You don't need to become a monk to feel peace. You just need to clear one surface, one drawer, one shelf. Small intentional acts that say, I respect my space because I respect myself. The goal is not perfection, it's permission. Permission to let go of what no longer serves you. Permission to make space, not just for aesthetics, but for awareness. Now let's shift inward. Mental clutter is trickier because it doesn't sit on your desk. It sits behind your eyes. It's the loop of unfinished conversations, the to-do lists you never wrote down, the regrets you haven't faced, the worries you rehearse daily without realizing. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And much of that waste lives in our untamed minds. So what's the remedy? External order. plus internal stillness. You start outside to calm the inside, then you face the inside to free the outside. Journaling helps. Write out what weighs on your mind, not to solve everything, but to remove the burden of holding it all. Ask, what thoughts keep replaying in my head? What decisions have I postponed? What emotions have I stuffed instead of felt? Once it's on paper, it becomes tangible, manageable, no longer swirling like fog. Now it has a name, a place, a beginning. Another strategy? Prioritization. Stop trying to do everything. Choose 3 things per day. That's it. Honor those. When you simplify, your focus, your energy returns, your direction sharpens, and suddenly, life feels less like a storm and more like a steady walk. Want to go even deeper? Try this. Walk into your space and ask, does this add meaning, or does it just take up space? Then ask your mind, is this thought necessary, or just familiar noise? Be ruthless, be kind, let go. Because every piece of clutter, external or internal, takes up room that something wiser, truer, lighter could occupy. And when you clear that room, when you stop clinging to what was, you create space for what can be. Peace, focus, presence. That's not a trend. That's a revolution. A quiet one. A stoic one. So today, ask yourself, what is one object I can let go of, and one thought I can release? Start there. One shelf, one breath, one pause, and watch the silence come flooding in, not as emptiness, but as sacred room for everything that truly matters. Escaping the trap of unnecessary comparisons, you pick up your phone. You scroll, and within seconds you're comparing their smile, their success, their seemingly perfect life. Meanwhile, your coffee's cold, your inbox is full, and you haven't even figured out what you're doing next week. This is the quiet poison of modern life. Not because people are doing well, but because you think you're not. But here's the Stoic truth. Comparison is the thief of inner peace. It's the art of judging your whole story by someone else's highlight reel. It's looking at the surface of their life, while ignoring the depth of your own. The problem isn't admiration. The problem is illusion. You see the joy, but not the sacrifice. You see the applause, but not the struggle. You see the end, but not the path. The Stoics never told us to ignore others. They taught us to return to ourselves, to stop measuring success through the eyes of the crowd and instead, through the mirror of our own integrity. Seneca said, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." This is not a race. This is not a stage. Life is not a contest. It's a canvas, and every person paints their own. So ask yourself, am I falling behind, or am I just walking a different path? Am I losing, or am I just growing quietly without the need to announce it? Here's what comparison robs you of. Your gratitude. It shifts your focus from what you have to what you lack. Your direction. It replaces your goals with someone else's. Your energy. It drains you chasing shadows that were never meant to be yours. And worst of all, it keeps you stuck in a loop, constantly seeking validation from outside, while ignoring the wisdom within. but you can step out. You can choose differently. Start with awareness. Each time you feel envy or inadequacy rising, don't fight it. Observe it. Ask, what does this feeling point to within me? Is it a dream you've ignored? A value you've betrayed? A wound that needs healing? Use comparison not as a weapon, but as a mirror. Let it guide you back to what truly matters to you. Then practice gratitude. Not forced gratitude, but focused gratitude. Every morning, name 3 things in your life that are good. Not perfect, just good. Let that be your foundation. Next, curate your inputs. Unfollow what disturbs your peace. Mute what triggers your ego. Fill your mind with voices that speak truth, not pressure. The people you listen to shape your inner weather. Choose warmth. Here's something practical. Every time you find yourself wishing for someone else's life, pause and ask, what's one thing I've done this year that my past self would be proud of? Celebrate that. Let your progress be sacred even if it's silent. Let your journey be valid even if no one claps. Because the truth is, there is no one exactly like you. No one with your exact set of lessons, scars, timing, and perspective. And that means your path cannot be compared. It can only be honored. So today, step out of the trap. Not by proving yourself, not by running faster, but by walking slower, looking inward, and whispering to yourself, I'm exactly where I need to be. That is not complacency, that is confidence. That is not settling. That is sovereignty. And from that place, you'll no longer need to compare, because you'll finally remember you were never in competition to begin with. Conclusion: silent transformation creates a stable life. You don't have to scream to change your life. You don't need applause to grow, and you certainly don't need permission to let go of what no longer serves you. This journey wasn't about doing more. It was about releasing. Releasing fear. Releasing noise. Releasing expectations, clutter, and habits that once felt normal, but never truly felt right. You see, the most profound transformations don't happen in the spotlight. They happen in silence, in stillness, in those quiet moments when you finally decide, I'm done carrying this. It might be a thought, a relationship, a habit, a story. But the moment you drop it, even just a little, you create space. Space for clarity, space for peace, space for a deeper version of you to step forward. The Stoics never taught us to chase power. They taught us to reclaim it internally, to stop wasting our days reacting to the world and instead respond with calm, with intention, with strength rooted in simplicity. And you've done that here. You've paused, you've reflected, you've looked within, even when the world begged you to look out. That takes courage. That takes wisdom. And if all you do after this is eliminate one small thing, just one, you've already taken the first step toward a life of greater freedom and self-respect. So here's your question one last time. What's one thing you can quietly eliminate today to come home to yourself tomorrow? Start small, start slow, but most importantly, start. And if this journey has resonated with you, if you've felt seen, understood, or simply a little more centered? Then consider subscribing to Stoic Zen. This space exists to serve your growth, not to chase trends. It's here to walk with you in stillness, in strength, in silence. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing reflection over noise. And thank you for having the quiet courage to become who you truly are. Until next time, stay calm, stay grounded, and above all, stay true to yourself.